Have you ever seen a waitress smile every morning, not knowing she's raising a child on her own, and hiding a secret that's been quietly sitting on her heart for 6 long years? Before we begin, where are you listening to this story from? Leave a comment. I'd really love to know. In a small town like Cedar Lake, where folks greet each other by first name and don't bother locking their doors at night, you'd think secrets would be hard to keep. But the truth is, the biggest secrets often hide behind the most familiar smiles. Ava, 29 years old, single mother, is one of those people. You'd see her every morning at the diner by the lake, carrying plates of eggs and pouring coffee, saying, "Have a good one," like the world never weighs her down. But if you looked just a little closer, really looked, you'd see it in her eyes. A story no one's ever heard, and a little girl still waiting for a father she's never met. Ava lives in a small upstairs apartment behind an old auto shop. Peeling paint on the walls, window frames that creak when the wind blows. The heater only works half the time. But it's home for her and Luna. Every morning, Ava wakes up before sunrise. No alarm clock needed. Worry does the job just fine. One hand on the coffee pot, the other flipping through unpaid electric bills. She puts together a simple breakfast for her daughter. A slice of toast, an apple, and a little peanut butter, if money allows. Luna wakes up with a sleepy smile and a head full of tangled hair. "Mom, can I bring my new crayons today?" "Of course," Ava says with a soft smile. "But promise you'll clean up when you're done." "Okay," Luna chirps, running to the living room, which also happens to be her play area, her school space, and her nap corner. Luna is bright, sensitive, the kind of child who sees people in a way that makes you feel completely seen, and sometimes exposed. And every now and then, one of her questions stings like a memory Ava tries to forget. Once, while folding pajamas, Luna asked, "Mom, did my dad like drawing? Like me?" Ava paused, just for a second, then kept folding. "Yeah, he did. He was really good at it. Does he know I like to draw too?" Ava turned her face away. I think he'd be very proud if he knew." It was the kind of answer that let a child fall silent, but never lightened the weight in a mother's chest. Every night, after Luna falls asleep, Ava sits alone in her room. The glow from a weak ceiling bulb pools on the worn-out floor. She pulls open the bottom drawer of her dresser, where a small wooden box sits quietly, a box she's never been able to throw away. Inside, a faded photograph, a younger Ava, short hair, laughing, and beside her, Ethan, his arms wrapped around her from behind, chin resting on her shoulder, eyes gently closed, like that moment was all he ever needed. There's a stack of letters beneath the photo. Words never sent, thoughts never shared. "Ethan, if you're reading this, maybe I finally found the courage." She has your eyes, Ethan. Every time she smiles, I don't know whether to feel joy or grief. Ava wrote those lines during the hardest nights, when Luna was just a baby, screaming in pain from teething. When Ava worked 2 shifts back to back and only had enough left for a pack of diapers. When she cried in the bathroom at 2 a.m., and only the mildew-covered walls heard her. She sent one email. Just one. No reply, no explanation. Nothing. So she stopped searching, stopped asking, stopped hoping. Ethan was gone, and Ava decided she had to keep going, alone. But here's the thing about life. It never really forgets the places where it left off. And sometimes, just when you think a secret is buried for good, fate walks right through the front door, without knocking, and turns everything upside down. That morning was colder than usual. The skies over Cedar Lake were heavy with gray clouds, the kind that seemed to swallow sunlight before it even had a chance to touch the ground. Upstairs, in the tiny apartment above the old auto shop, Ava was trying to tie her hair while balancing her phone between her shoulder and ear. "Gina, Please tell me you're still good to watch Luna this morning." There was a pause. Then a rushed, apologetic voice. "I'm so sorry, Ava. My mom was rushed to the hospital. I can't leave her. I know this is last minute, but—" Ava closed her eyes for a beat. Her fingers tightened around the phone. "It's okay. Thanks for letting me know." She hung up, turned around, and found Luna zipping up her tiny backpack, carefully tucking her crayons inside. The little girl was humming to herself, completely unaware of the change in plans. Ava knelt in front of her. "Sweetheart, you're coming to work with me today. But you have to promise. Sit still, draw quietly, and no wandering off, okay?" "Okay." Luna grinned wide, already excited like she was going on an adventure. The diner was warm, cozy, and full of life. The smell of fresh coffee, sizzling bacon, and maple syrup filled the air. Customers chatted over breakfast. The radio played soft country tunes, and the clink of silverware rang against ceramic plates. Luna took her usual seat by the front window, her unofficial spot, where she could watch the lake shimmer in the distance. She pulled out her crayons and began working on a drawing of a house with a chimney and a stick figure family, a mom, a little girl, and a man with tall shoulders. Ava tied her apron, tucked her order pad in the front pocket, and got to work. She moved quickly through the diner, refilling coffees, taking orders, exchanging polite smiles. Everything felt routine, until it wasn't. 8:42 a.m. The bell above the door rang. Ava was pouring coffee when she heard the soft ding of the front door. She glanced up like she always did, and then she froze. The man who had just walked in was wearing a tailored navy coat, crisp white shirt, and a watch that glinted under the warm diner lights. He walked with purpose. But something about the way he carried himself, something in his jawline, the way his eyes scanned the room. It was Ethan. Her Ethan. The man from the faded photo she kept hidden in a wooden box. The man whose name she whispered in letters she never sent. The man who, 6 years ago, walked out of her life without ever knowing what he left behind. Ava's breath caught in her chest. She turned quickly, pretending not to notice him. Her hands trembled as she grabbed the coffee pot. "No," she told herself. "He doesn't recognize me. He can't." She walked toward him like he was just another customer. "Hi there. What can I get you?" He didn't look up, eyes still on his phone. "Just a black coffee." "Thanks." She nodded, turned around, and walked back to the counter. She didn't look at him again. Not yet. Meanwhile, by the window, Luna was still drawing. She stopped to look up, maybe to find her mom, but her eyes landed on the man sitting just a few tables away. Her crayons slipped from her hand. She stared, unblinking, studying his face, the hair, the nose, the eyes. He looked just like the man in the picture she once found in her mom's drawer. The picture her mom said she wasn't supposed to see. The man she'd drawn in her pictures 100 times before. Luna stood up. She didn't ask. Didn't check with her mom. She just knew. She clutched the drawing to her chest and ran. "Daddy!" She sprinted across the diner floor and wrapped her little arms around the man's waist before he even realized she was coming. Ethan looked down, startled. "Daddy?" He blinked. Confused? Speechless. Ava turned just in time to see Luna clinging to him, and her heart dropped to the floor. The coffee pot nearly slipped from her hand. She rushed forward but stopped halfway. Ethan looked from the little girl to the woman standing motionless by the counter, and for the first time in 6 years, their eyes met. Recognition flooded his face. His voice came out low, uncertain. "Ava." The room falls into a stunned silence. Ava bolts across the diner floor, her apron still on, heart racing. She scoops Luna into her arms and gently pulls her away from the man she just hugged. Sweetheart? No, Ava whispers, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry. She must have mistaken you for someone else. The man is frozen, his coffee untouched, eyes fixed on the little girl now clinging to her mother's neck. His brow furrows. Slowly, his gaze lifts to Ava. He looks at her, really looks at her, for the first time. Ava? Her face pales. She nods, lips pressed into a tight line, eyes darting toward the floor like she wants to vanish. Can we talk outside? He doesn't respond, just rises, almost in a daze, and follows her through the side door that leads to the alley behind the diner. Outside, the wind is biting. The sky above is heavy with gray clouds. Metal trash bins rattle in the breeze, and leaves swirl across the pavement. They stand there in the silence, a few feet apart, like strangers with history. Ava folds her arms tightly across her chest. Ethan leans against the brick wall, his breath visible in the chilly air. Finally, he breaks the silence. She called me Dad. Ava doesn't look at him. She's squeezing her hands together so tightly her knuckles turn white. Her name is Luna. She just turned 6 last month. And yes, she's yours. Ethan stares at her, unblinking. The words hit him like a slap across the face. Wait, what? Mine? His voice cracks on the last word, caught between disbelief and something deeper, something that sounds a lot like grief. Ava nods, barely able to meet his eyes. 7 years ago. The summer art retreat. You left after you got that job offer in San Francisco. I found out I was pregnant after you were gone. I wrote to you. I emailed. But I never heard back. Ethan's face shifts. Confusion, disbelief, guilt. He opens his mouth, then closes it again. I never saw anything, Ava. No calls. No letters. Ava's voice lowers, raw now. I stopped trying. I was terrified you'd come back just to take her away. I didn't have the money, the power. I didn't want to fight you in court. I couldn't risk that. Ethan turns away from her, one hand pressed flat against the cold brick wall. His shoulders rise and fall with uneven breath. He's not angry. He's not yelling. He's simply unraveling. I need time to understand what this is, what this means. Ava doesn't argue. She doesn't plead. She stands still, her face calm, but her eyes holding back a storm. Then, the door creaks behind them. Luna steps out, her drawing still in her hand. Mommy, she says softly. I'm sorry, but I know he's my daddy. I just knew. Ava kneels, pulling Luna close, holding her like she's afraid to let go. This time, she doesn't look away from Ethan, and he doesn't look away either. There, in the quiet space between shock and healing, something unspoken passes between them. Not closure, but the very first thread of connection. And maybe forgiveness. The morning light was thin and gray, struggling to break through the mist that clung to the windows of the small-town diner. Outside, a light breeze carried fallen leaves down the street. Inside, everything was still, except for Ava. She moved slowly between tables, wiping them down with the kind of care that meant she wasn't really focused on the task. Her hand trembled slightly as the familiar chime above the front door jingled. She looked up, and there he was. Ethan. Not rushed, not demanding, just present. There was a quiet weight in the way he stood, a seriousness in his eyes that hadn't been there the day before. He didn't sit. He just looked at her, gently but firmly. I'm not here to make things harder, Ava. I just want the chance to see her, the right way, from the start. Ava looked at him for several long seconds. You could see the storm behind her eyes, the doubt, the fear, the instinct to run. But in the end, she nodded once, calm but cautious. The park, the library, public places only, and never alone. You don't take her anywhere. Not yet. Ethan gave a soft, grateful nod. I understand. Thank you for letting me try. And just like that, something shifted. Not trust, but maybe the very beginning of it. The library was still, bathed in the soft, golden light of late afternoon. In the children's section, Luna sat at a small table with colorful puzzle pieces scattered across it. Ethan was seated across from her, gently trying to help her find the right corner pieces. His sleeves were rolled up, and there was a nervous energy to his movements. He wasn't used to this, but he was trying. Luna didn't say much. She watched him the way children do when they're figuring out whether to let someone in. Her little fingers worked the puzzle, while her eyes stayed locked on his. Did you play with puzzles when you were little? She finally asked quietly. Ethan smiled, a little surprised. Not as well as you. I think you're better than I ever was. She gave a tiny nod, like she had decided that was a good enough answer. Across the room, Ava watched from a distance, pretending to read a book she hadn't turned the page on in 10 minutes. Her face was still, but her eyes were full of hope she wasn't ready to say out loud. The leaves rustled gently overhead. Luna's laughter rang out as Ethan pushed her on the swings. Her hair flew back in the wind, her cheeks flushed with joy. "Higher, Daddy," she shouted without hesitation. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't forced. She called him Daddy, like it had always been there, like it had just been waiting. Ava sat on a bench nearby, a closed book resting on her lap. She smiled faintly at the sound of her daughter's voice, but her fingers gripped the book a little too tightly. She watched them together and for the first time, let herself breathe. It was just after 11:30 p.m. Ava sat beside Luna's bed, dabbing her forehead with a cool washcloth. The little girl was burning up, cheeks flushed, eyes glassy and unfocused. Ava tried calling the clinic again, but no answer. She paced the room, fear growing with every second. She hadn't felt this helpless in years. Her phone lit up. Video call from Ethan. She answered, her voice strained. She's had a fever since this afternoon. It's worse now. I don't know what to do. He didn't say much, just looked at her, then hung up. 20 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Ethan stepped in with a bag in hand, thermometer, medicine, a soft towel. He didn't ask for permission. He just moved. They worked side by side in silence. One of them held Luna's hand, while the other wiped her down, cooled her head, whispered stories in her ear to help her drift off. Time passed. The fever finally broke around 3 a.m. Ava, exhausted, fell asleep in the chair next to the bed, still holding Luna's small hand. Ethan took a thin blanket from the couch and gently draped it over her shoulders. Then he sat on the floor, leaning against the wall, legs stretched out, head tilted back. He didn't sleep. He just looked at them. His face, once proud and distant, now carried something deeper: remorse, tenderness, and the quiet ache of a man realizing how much time he had lost. Not a word was spoken, but in that silence, everything was said. If you've ever worked in a small-town diner on a slow, cloudy day, you know the kind of quiet I'm talking about. The kind where the hum of the fridge and the ticking of the wall clock feel louder than they should. Outside, the wind had picked up. Leaves scattered across the parking lot, and the clouds promised rain. The booths were mostly empty. The place felt still. In the back, Ava poured herself a cup of coffee. Her movements were slower than usual. She stared into the mug like it might give her answers. That's when Sophie, her co-worker, and more importantly, her oldest friend, walked in from the back room. She didn't say anything at first. Just watched Ava for a second before sitting down at the counter. Ava finally spoke, her voice low. He's trying, Soph. I mean, really trying. calls every day, takes Luna to the park, to the bookstore, and when he looks at her, he's not faking it. Sophie leaned in, resting her elbows on the counter. Her voice was gentle but clear. You sure he's not gonna leave again? No judgment, just concern. The kind that comes from someone who's watched you fall apart once and isn't sure you can survive doing it again. Ava didn't respond. She just looked down and bit the inside of her lip. The days that followed were quiet and strange in their own gentle way. Ethan didn't push, he invited. Little outings, a walk to the park, flipping through children's books at the old corner bookstore, a weekend matinee at the community center. He always walked a few steps behind Ava and Luna, like he was still learning how to belong to them without disturbing their rhythm. One afternoon, just before dusk, they sat in Ava's small backyard. The autumn air was crisp, and the sky glowed orange behind the rooftops. Luna burst through the back door, barefoot and breathless. I finished it! I drew us! She held up a crayon drawing with both hands. 3 figures holding hands under a sun with a smiley face. See? That's me in the middle. And you and Daddy on the sides. We're eating ice cream. She handed it first to Ava, then to Ethan. He smiled. So did she. But Ava's smile didn't linger long. She folded the drawing carefully, almost too carefully, and tucked it into a kitchen drawer without saying a word. Some things, even beautiful ones, are hard to look at when you're not sure you're allowed to hope. The apartment was quiet, the kind of quiet that only happens after a child has fallen asleep. Outside, a light rain tapped gently against the windows. The ticking of the kitchen clock kept time with the faint clink of dishes. Ethan was washing glasses at the sink. Ava wiped down the table. They didn't speak until he dried his hands and turned to face her. His tone was calm, steady. I want to see her every weekend, not just sometimes. I don't want to be someone she remembers vaguely when she's grown. I want to be part of her childhood, really part of it. Ava stopped wiping. She held the cloth in her hand, frozen, staring down at the wood grain of the table. I've been her mother, alone, for 6 years. I don't know how to share that. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. But her words hit like something breaking loose from a place she'd kept locked tight. It wasn't a no, it was a scar. Ethan didn't push, he just nodded, quiet and sincere. I'll wait. However long you need, I'll be here. Ava sat alone on the old couch in the living room. The TV was off. The only light came from a warm lamp in the corner, casting golden shadows across the room. On the coffee table in front of her was Luna's drawing. She picked it up and stared at it. A stick figure version of herself with long hair. Ethan, wearing his usual baseball cap. And Luna in the middle, her little hands stretching out to both. Ava chuckled softly. And then, her eyes filled. Not because she was sad, but because, for the first time in years, she let herself imagine, what if he doesn't leave? What if this time, he actually stays? It's late. Not just by the clock, but in the kind of way where the silence settles deep into the walls. The kind of night where every creak in the floorboard feels louder than usual. Ava stands at the kitchen sink, sleeves rolled up, warm water running over the dishes in her hands. The overhead light glows a soft amber, casting long shadows across the faded tile floor. Steam fogs up the window, blurring the dark world outside. Sophie, her friend and confidant, sits nearby at the dining table with a mug of herbal tea. The room is quiet, but it's not peaceful. Ava's voice breaks the silence. Barely a whisper. I'm scared, Soph. Scared I'll lose her. She sets down the dish, her fingers trembling slightly. Water drips from her hands, unnoticed. Ethan's been back for weeks, and he's been good. Really good. But what if he's not here to stay? What if he's just here to take her? Sophie doesn't respond right away. She just looks at Ava. Really looks at her, with the kind of tenderness only a lifelong friend can offer. Her voice is steady. I know what it took for you to build this life, Ava. But maybe you're not the only one who's changed. But outside the room, just down the short hallway, Luna, their little girl with big eyes and a heart far too sensitive for her age, is sitting silently in her room. The door is cracked just enough. And children, they don't miss the things we think they don't hear. She carefully closes her coloring book, zips up her backpack, and pulls on her tiny pink sneakers. No noise, no drama. Just quiet decisions made with a heavy little heart. Ava opens Luna's bedroom door with her usual softness, ready to kiss her goodnight. But the bed is empty, the blanket folded neatly, the nightlight still glowing. And the window, slightly open. Her heart slams in her chest. Luna? She races through the apartment, calling her daughter's name. Her voice climbs in volume, in fear. No answer. She grabs her phone, fingers fumbling, breath shallow, and dials the police. Her voice is breaking now, a mother's voice when the world suddenly falls out from under her. She runs outside into the night, barefoot, rain misting down now as storm clouds thicken. Porch lights flicker on as she calls again, and again. Luna! Please, Luna! Ava is on her knees at the edge of the street when her phone lights up. Ethan! She answers with a cracked voice. Ethan? I can't find her. She's gone. She's here, Ethan interrupts gently. She showed up maybe 15 minutes ago. She's okay, Ava. Just tired. Come over. Ava doesn't say a word. She's already up, already running, the phone still clutched in her hand. The door opens before she knocks. The hallway is dimly lit, the air warm and still. There, in the living room, Luna is curled up on the couch. Her tiny backpack sits by the door. Her head rests against Ethan's shoulder, and he sits completely still, hand gently placed on her back. Protective, quiet, present. Ava rushes in, heart still thundering, but when her eyes land on Luna, safe, breathing, peaceful, her legs nearly give out. She kneels beside the couch, brushing Luna's bangs away from her flushed cheeks. Luna opens her eyes, barely, and whispers, I'm sorry, Mommy. I didn't mean to scare you. I just wanted for you and Daddy to stop being scared of each other. I just want a family. Those words, spoken through a sleepy, tear-cracked voice, hit harder than any storm. Ava's tears come fast, hot, silent. Not out of fear, but from a truth too big for words. She pulls her daughter into her arms, holding her like she never wants to let go. Her cheek presses to Luna's hair. She breathes in the scent of home, of safety. And when she finally lifts her eyes to meet Ethan's, they're different. No longer guarded, no longer angry, just soft, tired, real. And in his eyes, she sees the same things, regret, hope, and a quiet promise he doesn't dare speak aloud, but that she can feel in her bones. He's still here, and maybe, just maybe, he's not going anywhere. The sun is just beginning to stretch across the quiet streets of Cedar Lake. A soft golden light filters in through the kitchen window, casting long shadows on the tiled floor. Ava stands by the stove, her oatmeal-colored sweater loose around her shoulders. Her hair's pulled up in a simple knot, wisps falling gently around her temples. On the table behind her is a pile of early childhood education books, sticky notes poking out at every angle. Her tablet buzzes quietly with the day's online classes. She pours hot tea into a chipped ceramic mug. The kettle whistles gently in the background. Luna scampers in, hair a little wild, still rubbing sleep from her eyes. Her backpack, bright pink with a cartoon cat on it, bounces on her back. "Mom, today I have math and story time. Can I tell the story about when we went on a picnic with Daddy?" Ava bends down to tie her daughter's shoelaces, smiling. "You can tell any story you want, sweetheart, as long as it comes from your heart." Luna beams. "Then I'll say I have 2 homes, one at Mommy's, one at Daddy's, and on weekends we bake pies together." Just a few blocks from the heart of town, tucked between a bakery and a hardware store, stands a modest brick building with a wide front window. Inside, Ethan is adjusting a picture frame on the wall of his new office. In the photo, he and Luna are laughing, their faces dusted with flour, mid-baking disaster. The office isn't fancy, but it's clean, warm, and looks out onto the lake. His assistant walks in with a folder of paperwork. Ethan nods, takes it, but his eyes linger on the photo before he steps out. He's not chasing skyscrapers anymore. He's building something smaller, something that matters more. Their lives don't look like a picture-perfect postcard, but it works. It breathes. Monday to Friday, Luna is with Ava. Mornings are for math and storybooks, evenings for puzzles, cooking experiments, and homework spread across the kitchen table. Ava uses Luna's crafts as part of her own coursework, folding motherhood into her dream of becoming a preschool teacher. Weekends, Ethan picks Luna up. His house is quieter, nestled near the woods, with soft pine air and space to ride bikes. They make pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, read stories under tents made of sheets, and laugh until bedtime. Every few weeks, all 3 go to the movies or grab hot cocoa at the local fall festival. They're not a couple, but they are a team, and that makes all the difference. The sun is dipping low, painting the sky in peach and lavender. Inside Ava's apartment, the familiar end-of-week ritual is unfolding. Luna zips her backpack. Ava folds up an overnight bag, just enough clothes for 2 days, and Luna's favorite bedtime book. There's a knock at the door. Ethan stands there, casual and right on time, holding a reusable tote bag. "Evening, Ms. Future Teacher," he grins, spotting the books in Ava's hand. "Not a teacher yet," she smiles. "But getting closer." He crouches down to Luna. "Tonight we tackle apple tarts, but only after you wash those hands extra well, and I'll tell you about the math puzzle I solved." Luna giggles. She hugs Ava tight, just a little longer than usual, and then bounces out the door, hand in hand with her dad. Ava stays at the doorway a moment longer, watching them walk toward the car under the fading light. No fear, no anxiety, just peace. For the first time, she knows, really knows, her daughter has both her parents, and that's a kind of healing no one can fake. That night, the house is still. The only light is from the desk lamp in the living room. Ava sits on the couch, a half-finished assignment in front of her. But she's not reading. In her lap is a framed drawing, one Luna made months ago. Crayon strokes, bright and joyful. It's a picture of the 3 of them. Mommy, Daddy, me. All holding hands, all smiling. Ava runs her fingers gently over the glass. She whispers to herself, "We don't need to go back to what we were. We just have to stay." She leans back on the couch, the lamp casting a warm glow across her face. And for the first time in a long time, she feels home. Not because of the walls around her, but because of the people who chose not to walk away. Cedar Lake is wrapped in the kind of fall light that makes everything look softer, gentler. Sunlight slips through amber leaves, painting golden streaks across porch steps and rustling branches. Inside Ava's small apartment, it's quiet, peaceful. The kettle hums low on the stove. The scent of cinnamon tea fills the air. At the kitchen table, Ava sits with her laptop open, glasses perched on her nose. She's taking notes, focused, calm, as her online class plays. Introduction to Early Childhood Education. To her left, pinned to the wall, hangs a framed drawing. A child's crayon sketch. 3 stick figures. Mom, Dad, me, holding hands under a bright yellow sun. Ava's chasing a dream she once buried. And this time she's not running alone. Just off Main Street, a new office has opened. The sign out front is simple, understated. But the second line matters. Cedar Lake Branch. Inside, Ethan stands behind his desk, sleeves rolled up, phone cradled to his ear. But his eyes keep drifting, again and again, to the photo on his desk. It's Luna, mid-laugh, frosting on her nose. He smiles. Years ago, success meant Silicon Valley. Now it means something else entirely. Being here, being present. Life doesn't look like it used to, but it's better. It's real. Weekdays, Luna is with Ava, doing homework, painting in the kitchen, baking cookies shaped like hearts and stars. Sometimes Ava lets her help practice lessons for school. Alphabet games, finger puppets, sing-alongs. Weekends, Luna packs her overnight bag and runs into her dad's arms. At Ethan's cozy little home near the woods, they make pancakes and read chapter books by flashlight. Sometimes all 3 spend an afternoon at the town fair or a matinee at the old theater. They're not married. They're not trying to be what they were. But they're here. Together. And for Luna, that's more than enough. The sky is dusky blue when Ethan knocks at the door. Inside, Ava's packing Luna's small duffel. Books, a fuzzy pajama set, a bag of apples from the farmer's market. Ethan greets her with a teasing grin. Evening, Professor. Not quite yet, Ava laughs, brushing hair from her eyes. He turns to Luna. I've got a surprise recipe tonight, but I need a sous chef who washes her hands really well. That's me, Luna squeals. She hugs her mom tightly, then skips off with her dad, babbling about school and apple pie. Ava watches them disappear down the steps, hand in hand. She doesn't feel left behind. She feels full. The backyard is strung with paper lanterns and pastel streamers. A crown-shaped cake sits on a picnic table, surrounded by folding chairs and happy children. Laughter fills the air. Balloons bounce against the fence. Ava carries a tray of cupcakes while Ethan flips burgers near the grill. They move around each other with the ease of people who've finally learned how to share space. Guests might think they're just another happy couple. But those who know the truth. They're a family by choice, not accident, by healing, not habit. And that makes them stronger. The party winds down. Parents gather their kids. The sun slips lower behind the trees, casting a soft golden hue across the lawn. Ava's wiping cake crumbs from the table when Ethan steps beside her. He clears his throat. I told myself I wouldn't do this today. But watching you out here, watching Luna, He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small velvet box. I lost you once, and somehow you still gave me a second chance. Not just with you, but with the family we never thought we'd have. Ava, if you'll let me, I'd like to keep showing up. Every day, not as a visitor, but as your husband. He opens the box, a simple gold band, nothing flashy, but it gleams in the warm light like it was always meant to be there. Ava looks at him for a long, still moment. Then she laughs, a soft, tearful laugh, and nods. Yes. Finally. Yes. The sky is painted in burnt orange and dusky pink. A camera clicks. Ava, Ethan, Luna, standing close, arms linked, smiles wide. Behind them, the party lights flicker. Children giggle. The wind rustles through the trees. In that frozen frame, you see it all. The broken pieces, the rebuilding, and the quiet miracle of choosing each other again. This wasn't the end of their story. It was the beginning of the best part, the part they never thought they'd live to see,